AI race grips the world. AI to add $1.7 trillion to India's economy by 2035. Another industrial revolution underway. AI job killer or efficiency builder. Skilling at scale, the biggest challenge. How to bridge the AI divide. India Today AI Summit.
So let's start with our special focus today, the AI Summit, the big summit that's grabbed all the headlines for the right and wrong reasons in the national capital. The big question that I've posed at the India Today AI Summit is quite simply this. Is India's AI push the real deal, or is it more about hype? That's the question I want to kick off this AI special with Amitabh Kant, former CEO NITI Aayog, and someone who knows a thing or two about organizing mega events. Listen in. Please give a big hand to Amitabh Kant, one of the country's most distinguished bureaucrats and government officers. Good to have you.
Thank you.
I'm going to provoke you a bit. A couple of years ago, the G20 was held in India, went completely smoothly. Everyone had raving reviews. On the other hand, the AI summit, at least on day one, led to some criticism of chaos. The crowds were too much, not being handled well enough. How important is that? That when you stage an event of this on scale, you need to get your event management right. I'm asking you that because you won that hat in the past. Do you believe that's an unfair criticism given the scale of what is being attempted the first time an AI summit is being held in the global south?
Rajdeep, I've been there for 2 days. There's been a huge energy and tremendous amount of vibrancy there. I think the number of people, especially young people of India who've gathered there for this AI summit has just been overwhelming. I think there were some challenges on the first day, but by the second day, it's smoothened out a lot. I did 2 sessions yesterday. It was absolute, there was absolute smoothness all over. So I think probably the first day, there's too many young people with a lot of interest in AI who had descended. But by yesterday, everything had settled down.
I'm asking you, would you have done it anywhere differently? Would you have ensured that it was far more targeted, maybe 2 days where you just focused on expertise in AI and then maybe 2 days opened it up to the masses?
So, I thought probably the exhibition should have been to the consumers, everybody, open up the exhibition because it has a huge learning experience for the students, everyone, and do a little tighter business-to-business meetings, and the interactions and the meeting rooms could have been a little business to business. But we all, there's been so much of interest by university students, colleges, etc. Such vast interest that probably we didn't anticipate that so many people will come to participate in the AI summit.
Which brings me to my question. The energy of India, it's young entrepreneurs, it's startups, it's innovators is undoubted. We have terrific young engineers with all kinds of ideas. But which is why I ask you, can this AI revolution be led by the state, government, i.e. bureaucracy, or must it be left to these young innovators, give them far more autonomy, just be there to enable them rather than direct them? Is that really the challenge?
So the key to AI...
So why should an IAS officer decide rather than a young innovator?
No, I totally agree with you. I was going to second what you are saying, that an AI revolution can only be fueled by cutting-edge entrepreneurs, not by ministers or not by civil servants like me. What an AI revolution requires is basically three things: great talent, great opening up of data sets, and allowing computing power to flow to them. What you're seeing is examples of Sarvam doing multilingual models, etc., is because the government has acted as a facilitator to provide them computing power, but it's their entrepreneurship. The government opens up a vast amount of data through AI Kosh. So the more you open it up, the better it is to create large language models and small language models, and that will enable India to drive the AI revolution forward. There are two critical things. One is that if you look at the western part of the world, there's huge computing power. If you look at the new working operation of OpenAI with NVIDIA, it talks about 11 gigawatt of power, which is 5 million computing power. So the government's job is really to see that many of these young entrepreneurs get more and more of GPUs, more and more of computing power. That the government has to act as a facilitator. But enterprise really disruption has to come from startups.
The reason I'm asking you this again, Mr. Kant, is there have been two models that seemingly dominate the world of AI. One is the Chinese model, centralized, authoritarian, but seemingly very successful at the moment because they were early investors in the AI project. And you've got the American model, the Bay Area model, which is driven purely by private entrepreneurship and innovation. What is the model that you believe is best suited for India?
So the Indian model has to be based on digital public infrastructure for artificial intelligence, because you can't create a digital divide. The Western world, the Bay Area, is creating a huge digital divide. America is the only country in the world which holds 26% of the GDP of the world and 50% of the market capitalization with 4% of the population, but 70% of the people do not have a safety net. You can't have AI as a new technology worsening the digital divide. India must ensure that we are able to make it affordable, we are able to make it accessible, we are able to make it multilingual. If AI is tomorrow not able to work on low bandwidth, if it is limited to the English language, it is not fit for purpose. And therefore, India's job is to provide the safeguards, the rail guards, which make it open source, open API, globally interoperable, but ensure that we are able to provide AI as a commodity for all Indians in different languages and provide voice over text for all Indians to make AI accessible.
That's fascinating, again, because if you want AI accessible to 100 billion people, just the sheer size of it, that requires enormous computing power, which in turn needs energy and data infrastructure. How do you build that energy and data infrastructure overnight? Is a tax holiday of the kind that the budget has given to set up large data centers enough, or do you need to do much more?
So let me come to the next point, which is about doing it sustainably. Much of what is being driven as AI today is being driven by fossil fuel across the world. India has the opportunity, because India is the only country in the world which has about 260 gigawatt of renewable energy. India has the climatic conditions to do it. India is the only country today in the world which has one grid across the country. And India has opened up the small modular reactor for the private sectors. Therefore, my belief is that AI, which is a big guzzler of energy and today consumes more energy than the country of Japan, requires sustainable energy. It requires clean energy. It requires renewable energy and small modular reactors. It requires smartening up your transmission and grid. It requires the climatic conditions to do it. It requires young entrepreneurship to push this in a bigger way. No other country is poised to do it in a sustainable manner better than India. India is best positioned to do it because of its climatic conditions.
Yeah, but that's going to take time. And you know, this is not going to happen overnight. So are we going to end up playing catch up to the Chinese and the Americans? I mean, will China and America lead the world when it comes to AI innovation, and we simply try and get onto the bandwagon sooner rather than later? Can we be a leader at all? Or are we simply playing catch up and are long distance away from really being a serious AI player?
So, Rajdeep, first and foremost, get this very clear, absolutely clear in your mind, that the battle for technology is never, never won by the first mover. Clive Osborne did the first laptop. He went bust. The battle was won by Apple in the long run. They were not the first mover. Alta Vista did the first internet. They never won the battle. The battle was won by Google. And therefore, Alta Vista was sold out as a non-performing asset. So the battle for technology is fought over long term. And therefore, talent, skills, and data, and backed by good computing power with a long-term game. And that is without talent, without skills, and without data. Today, what is happening is that Indian data is fueling many of the Western models. For Servam to become better and better as a multilingual model, it needs to be fueled by Indian data. It gets more and more sophisticated with Indian data. And therefore, data is key, skills are key, and you need to look at a long-term perspective and not a perspective of today.
Yeah, but they're building the foundational models. They've already built the foundational models. Do we compete with them in that space?
India is building 10 large language models, which are being supported by the government of India with computing power, and many more smaller applications are being done. Much of this battle will play out.
So it's not catch up?
No, no. Much of this battle will be played out in the next 12 to 18 months. The important thing, Rajdeep, is also that you have to use much more sophisticated software with limited computing power. You have to do an optimization of computing power, which is what the Chinese are presently doing. They're not using the latest Blackwell. In fact, the Chinese government stopped NVIDIA's latest Blackwell model. They are saying we'll do it with limited computing power, but better software. Nobody has the better sophisticated software skills than the Indians have. Nobody has the data which India has. Nobody has the trained manpower which India has.
Okay, let me ask you, therefore, in conclusion, it's a question that we are asking all our panelists at this India Today AI Summit, which is quite simply this. And you were honest enough to accept that there is the real fear that this AI revolution in a country like India could lead to an AI divide, much like the digital divide. 100 billion people to be trained in AI over the next decade. Do you fear it could lead to job losses, the kind of disruption that takes place, and therefore this AI revolution could end up devouring us? While there are advantages, certainly, there is that fear that lurks below the surface of large-scale job losses, especially in unskilled labor.
So there'll be job losses of a particular kind, but there'll be job gains of data scientists, of machine learners, of product engineers. There's a huge amount of work to be done in terms of changing the curriculums of all our engineering institutions, of all our management institutions. Today, I mean, at my age, I've learned coding from getting onto Claude at my age. So I think the challenge will be really to put AI in the hands of young students from class 3 onwards as they grow and evolve over the years. India should produce a generation of AI engineers.
And you've also accepted, which is rare for a government officer or a former government officer, that the government doesn't know best. That at least when it comes to AI, please leave it to the great entrepreneurial energies and skills of the people of this country.
In all technology areas, put the entrepreneurs right there. It's free enterprise which should make India grow and prosper for the next 3 decades. The Prime Minister's vision of a $30+ trillion economy can only be achieved with free enterprise.
Amitabh Kant, for as always being provocative and saying things that others are sometimes hesitant to speak out. Thank you very much for joining us, and I hope to see you in a new avatar. In your AI avatar sooner rather than later.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Amitabh Kant, please give him a very big hand.
Great pleasure.
Now, one of the buzzwords at this mega AI summit in the national capital is Atmanirbhar AI. Can India build its own self-reliant artificial intelligence model? That's the question I pose Puneet Chandok, the president of Microsoft for India and South Asia. Listen in. We've framed today's debate in a way, or discussion, as life, work, home, creating an Atmanirbhar AI, a self-reliant AI. Is that an oxymoron, given the fact that AI in itself means you're completely dependent on your chat GPT? How do you create an Atmanirbhar world, Puneet, when AI by itself is effectively reducing us almost to slaves of chat GPT or any AI innovation? So I want to start with that. Can you really create a self-reliant AI?
First of all, Rajiv, thank you for having me. I don't think it's an oxymoron, and I don't think it's turning us into slaves. I think it's amplifying us, and hopefully it'll get us to do a lot more value-adding, interesting work in life. I think back to Atmanirbhar India, Atmanirbhar AI, I think that does not mean that we should build AI in an independent, siloed way by ignoring the world. I think it means two or three things. One, invest in infrastructure, which India is doing, and as Microsoft, we're pulling in $17.5 billion. Second is making sure we've got sovereign AI solutions for India, be it public cloud, be it private cloud, be it copilots, but just making sure that we're meeting the demands of India where India needs us to. And then AI eventually is a 5-layered cake, right? You've got energy at the bottom, you've got tokens, you've got models, you've got applications, you've got chips. I think India should take a very, very thoughtful stance on out of the 5-layered cake, what are the areas where we should really build ourselves, and what are the areas where we should get the best from the world. This is the time to be truly frontier. Every week something else is dropping, and this is the time to both build and get the best from the world. Okay, so let me take off from what you said. The Prime Minister, ahead of the AI summit, seemed to suggest that there were 3 pillars to India's AI push: innovation, inclusivity, and sovereignty. Let's break each of those down. Innovation. The truth of the matter is the United States and China are way ahead of the rest of the world when it's come to innovation. They built the foundation models. Some statistics suggest that 80% of the investment in AI infrastructure comes just from these 2 countries at the moment. Are we therefore playing catch up when it comes to innovation? Or do we, in a way, simply become the back room for what China and the United States are doing and tag along with them? So I think the Prime Minister obviously said this very well: innovation, inclusion, and sovereignty. I would add a couple of things to this. One is diffusion. And Jeffrey Ding had this fascinating book, and he looked at countries that are innovating and countries that are diffusing technology. And he said that countries that are diffusing technology are getting more value out of it. So while the world is innovating, India is starting to innovate. There are a lot of Indic LLMs and a lot of launches happening today and this week. I think India should equally focus on diffusing AI from classrooms to boardrooms, from agriculture to healthcare to enterprises to public sector, and that's happening. So I think that's one thing we should push on. The second is also skilling, and going back to innovation, inclusion, sovereignty. If you want 1 billion Indians to rise with AI, 1 billion Indians need to know how to use AI. And I think that's where we should focus a lot more. So agree with those 3. I would just add diffusion and skilling on top of that. But surely you need to invest far more in innovation than we are doing. Most Indian companies traditionally haven't invested enough in R&D, and thereby have perhaps lost out at times in a world that's rapidly changing. Do you believe that needs to change as a first brick, in a way, to build an Atmanirbhar AI? No, you're right. It does need to change. As private sector, as enterprises in India, as multinationals, I think we have to add value in the country, and none of what we have has any franchise value unless we're not adding value to the country, right? So we have to invest in R&D, we have to invest in infrastructure, we have to invest in skilling. That's why we're skilling 20 million people in India by 2030. So you're right, all of that needs to happen. But again, I'll just say, listen, while we innovate and push on innovation, don't forget diffusion. Because the more we can diffuse this technology, get it into the hands of every Indian, every company, every public sector institution, I think there's a lot more value there that we should not miss. Which comes to the second I, which is inclusivity. How do you, in a country that is so deeply divided, with such sharp inequalities, make AI truly inclusive? You said AI for 1 billion Indians. How do you really make it? It sounds great. How do you actually make sure that a little kid in Dhar in Madhya Pradesh is getting the same AI technology benefits that, let's say, a child in South Delhi or South Mumbai is getting? How do you bridge that divide? Or will we have an AI divide like we've had a digital divide for a very long time? So Rajdeep, I genuinely believe that AI is different from any other technology we've seen. Unlike the Industrial Revolution, where we waited for many, many years to get that technology, AI is here on day one, right? So we've got like anybody sitting in Boston today or Bangalore or in a small town in India, he or she has access to the same models, same applications. So I think that's one thing, which is we don't have to wait many, many years. And then to your point around inclusion, it's already starting to happen. I'll give you two examples. With the Ministry of Labor, we're building something called eShram. There are 300 million unorganized workers in India who don't know how to create a resume, who don't know how to take an interview, who don't know how to apply for a job. We're creating an AI platform for those people, these unorganized workers, to create a CV, do a mock interview, get ready for a job, and then get them employment. Right? Just a terrific example of embedding AI into systems. And again, AI, unlike other technologies, does not require you to be a PhD. Like, I'm a rusty coder. I used to code 30 years ago. With AI, I'm coding again. English is becoming the coding language now. So I think the ability to get AI into the hands of Indians is much easier than previous technologies. We do have to get our act together. I'm just giving you one-off examples. This needs to happen at a scale for 1 billion Indians to get there, but it's possible.
Which brings me to sovereignty. It's a word which is being used by many. We need to ensure AI sovereignty or certain digital sovereignty. How do you actually achieve that? Because increasingly you have to work with big tech global companies. AI by its very nature cuts across national boundaries. How do I control what an engineer sitting in San Francisco is doing, the information he or she is feeding me, or the AI models that they are creating? Do you believe it's possible to have AI sovereignty by simply creating large language homegrown models? Or is there another way out? How do you create genuine sovereignty over data?
So, Rajiv, there are two ways to frame sovereignty. You can use it as a code word to slow down, or you can use it as a code word to speed up. And I would obviously say, listen, we got to speed up on sovereignty. And there are two things we should do, right? One, we should build in India, and we're already building in India. So, for example, our copilots, which is, I was talking to Mr. Puri about it, the AI agent, all the processing is happening in India. So data privacy, sovereignty, everything that happens in India stays in India. The model stays in India. So one is build in India, meeting the sovereignty requirements, but also get the best from the world. Going back to, like, my biggest challenge is every day something is changing on the models. And if you're not keeping up with the frontier that's happening in the world, we will fall behind. So I would say build for India, and there's a lot of build happening, but also get the frontier from the world. This is the worst time to slow down and use our sovereignty as a way to slow down. In fact, use sovereignty to speed up.
No, so are you saying you build partnerships with the rest of the world? Microsoft, for example, is a good example. You're transnational. Do you does a Sarvam AI, which is seen as the government's, in a way, answer to creating a foundational model for India, do you collaborate with a Microsoft, which is a global corporation, and at the same time believe the data is Indian?
The answer is yes. And by the way, I'd like to believe we're an Indian company. We've been here for 35 years. We're as Indian as anybody else. Sarvam is a deep partner of ours, by the way. And the other thing on Rajdeep on this one, right? If the technology is changing every day, none of us have all the answers. Be it Microsoft, be it Sarvam, be it any other multinational, be it an Indian company, be it the Indian government. So the idea is, how do we all come together and build on what others are building versus trying to create walls, right? So this is the time to bring everybody together.
The reason I'm asking this, if you saw in the Union Budget 2026-27, a 21-year-old tax holiday was offered to foreign companies which are going to use cloud services come to India, provided they partner with Indian-owned data centers in India. Now, are we simply therefore going to drive this sovereignty by creating large data centers which the Adanis and the Geos are going to put a lot of money in, billions of dollars? Is that going to build data sovereignty in the truest sense of the word? That foreign company is coming here, it's getting a tax holiday. Is it going to retain the data, or will that data be shared with the people of India? Do you believe that that's the way forward, those kind of partnerships, Indian-owned data centers working with foreign global tech companies?
So the budget announcement on data centers is a terrific vote of confidence for building infrastructure in India. And as I said, we're bringing in $17.5 billion over the next 5 years. The question is, can we even do that faster, bring more capital into it, build more infrastructure, partner with Indian companies, to your point? And I think the point here is not just saying, listen, there are some companies who will build this with us. The idea is to build AI infrastructure for every Indian, right? Going back to saying, listen, can we get every Indian access to AI on their mobile phones? That requires infrastructure and capacity, which is what we're building. And then can we serve the world out of India, right? So obviously Indian data will stay in India, but can we serve Middle East countries? Can we serve Africa? Can we serve some of the South Asian countries out of India, given the infrastructure that we're building? And that's a massive opportunity.
But to build an Atmanirbhar Bharat as it is, the key lies with small businesses, MSMEs, micro industries. The question is, how do they benefit? How does a small business benefit from AI without the high costs involved? Do you believe AI will make it actually easier or more affordable in a way for smaller businesses?
I think there's some work to be done, but if you think about the thesis of AI, Rajdeep, what are we trying to do, right? For the first time in the history of mankind, we are saying we have the ability to create an intelligence, right? Can we use compute and compute to become cognition? Can we create intelligence out of machines, right? That's what we're trying to do. And by the way, every business today is a bundle of intelligence, bundle of expertise, be it a small or medium business or be it a large business. And the idea is, can we get intelligence on tap? Today, if you're a small and medium business in India, you want to solve a problem, what do? You hire people, you bring a team together. We are now talking about a possibility where a small or medium business in India can get intelligence and expertise on tap, right? Can they really get that intelligence to solve the problems or build the business they want to? So that's the thesis of AI. Now, the question is, how do we make sure we get it to the hands of SMBs at a price point that they can afford in a simple way? They don't have technology, they don't have people, they don't have the expertise. How do we simplify this and get this to work for them? Which is where, Rajdeep, a lot more work needs to be done, but we're committed to doing it.
Is there an example that you can give, a successful example where, for example, you managed to work with small businesses or a sector to make it more effective, affordable, and successful?
Lots of these examples, and I don't know if it's a small or medium business. There's a company called Creative Arts Network. They're a small company. They're building content for Bollywood and TV. We're working with them to use AI to build content. And again, reduce the cost of building by 100x, right? And now for an SMB, which is a small business, if you can potentially reduce the cost of building content by 100x, imagine the value that can create, and the more value that they can create, the more content they can get out, and the more business they can generate. So that's just one example, but across industries, healthcare, we're building co-pilots for doctors. Can we get doctors like my most interesting story is, you go to any hospital in India, the senior most doctors are out of time, the junior most doctors are out of work. The junior most doctors are writing notes, right? Can we create a co-pilot so the junior doctor can become as proficient as a senior doctor, right? Can we really give them the expertise, judgment, intelligence, so that they can treat patients and patients don't have to wait? Lawyers, same story. Can we create a co-pilot for lawyers? So I could go on, but it's across the board, Rajdeep. And
because one of the challenges, and this is a question I'm going to ask all my guests on this, is we have a huge demographic dividend. But we also have a large population which is unskilled workers. And the fear remains that as AI spreads, unemployment of those at the bottom of the pyramid will be real. Jobs will go. Is that fear-mongering, or is that a reality that we've got to be mindful while trying to create an Atmanirbhar AI architecture?
so a lot of this is exaggeration, but I think you also have to then kind of just be clear-eyed about this, right? You can't live in a fantasy world. The clear-eyed answer, Rajdeep, is the color of jobs will change. Your job and my job both will change. And ultimately, your job is a bundle of tasks. For some reason, we've equated work with jobs and titles, but the atomic unit of work is not jobs and titles. It's actually the tasks that you do. And what AI will do, Rajdeep, will unbundle everything you do and unbundle everything I do. And a lot of things that you and I think are work, for example, me sending 50 emails or attending 7 meetings or updating 3 trackers, feels like work, but it's not really work. We know it at the end of the day. I think AI will take that away, which means you and I will have more time to do value-added work, but we also have to really bundle ourselves much better, right? Which is we have to upskill ourselves so that we can really do stuff that is truly value-added. I think the implication for India and for all of us is that we're all living with this industrial age era template, right? Where you learn once and you earn for the rest of your life. My grandfather lived like that. My father lived like that. I'm almost living like that. That will break. We are the last generation to have stable long-term careers. My kids will have a portfolio of things they'll have to do, and they'll have to focus on skills, not jobs and titles. And I can imagine an India in the next few years where there's a certain set of tasks that need to be done, people have skills, and there's intelligent matching of those two happening. That's the world we have to prepare for.
That's fascinating. So what you're saying, the real challenge in a way is skilling. Rather than talk about jobs, jobs will come provided you get the right skills for those jobs. Am I broadly correct?
You're broadly correct.
Okay, since you just mentioned the possibility that we may lose our jobs or our jobs will be redefined in the coming years, we've now got AI anchors. So I have a question from you from my AI anchor. Listen in.
You do? Fantastic.
Hello, Mr. Chandok. My question to you is, what are the big advantages of AI and what is the one big concern?
By the way, this is fascinating. I should get my AI to talk to your AI. Hopefully in the next few months, we'll get there. I think the biggest advantage of AI, and that goes back to the thesis, right? It's a remarkable technology. For the first time, we have the ability to create intelligence. And intelligence is the most valuable commodity on the planet, right? Everything of value that we've created as a human species is driven by intelligence. And I'll tell you one quick story, right? The latest models that we have are equating to 150 IQ points. 150 IQ points, right? And let's assume the IQ of this room is roughly 100. Imagine a world where there's 50 IQ points available for you. There's a plug in the wall, you can plug in and get 50 IQ points. That's the power of this technology, right? Now the question is, how do we get this into the hands of every SMB, as you said, every company, every public sector, every Indian? So that's the advantage. The thing that I worry most about, Rajdeep, you spoke about this, which is not so much jobs going away, but our ability to skill at scale in India. We have to skill 1 billion Indians. As Microsoft, we are committed to skilling 20 million people over the next few years. I don't think that's enough. We have to do more. We all have to do more. But for 1 billion Indians to rise with AI, we need to skill them. They need to know how to use AI. People will not lose jobs to AI. People will lose jobs to people who know AI. And you better be on the right side of that equation. So that's one thing we all have to solve for.
Going ahead, do you think eventually companies will recognize that you can take full advantage of AI without necessarily shedding a workforce?
The answer is yes, if you can skill your workforce, right? And the
if
one
you
thing,
can skill and scale.
Skill and scale, right? I mean, the one thing I tell people around me is saying, if you stop clinging onto your job description, doing what you were hired to do is no longer enough. If your only value add is I can do my work faster, I can do more volume, I can do more efficiency, AI can compete with it. So stop clinging onto the job description. You really have to, and again, when you think about AI, skilling is misunderstood. I would say 3 things. One, you have to learn to think with AI. Every time you're doing something, you have to get AI to work with you as a thought partner. Second, you have to build with AI. And I said, I'm a rusty coder, but I'm coding every day again because English is the new coding language. Like I say, right, you can never get fit by watching others go to the gym. You have to go to the gym yourself. With AI, you have to go to the gym yourself every day. And then finally get AI to work with you like a teammate. The real unlock for us is when you think, when AI moves from a tool on your phone to a true teammate, Rajdeep, somebody who's sitting with you and helping you do your work better versus just a thing on your device. So if you do those 3 things, think with AI, build with AI every day, and then get AI to work with you as a digital colleague, I think we will solve this.
One final question in one sentence. What is the most competitive advantage that India has in this entire AI revolution, as we're calling it? What is the one thing that we have that others don't?
I think India's got the talent. We've got 22 million developers today on GitHub, the largest developer population in the world. We've got digital public infrastructure that we've built, and Mr. Kant is here, right? He's obviously much smarter on this than I am. Like, if you look at the digital public infrastructure in India, if you can embed AI into all of that, be it Aadhaar, be it UPI, and get our developers, we've got the most amount of developers on the planet to really build AI public infrastructure in this country. I think that's something nobody else in the world has.
Well, more power to that, more power in a sense to this large demographic dividend that we have, which hopefully will last at least the next 20 years. And harnessing that, skilling that on scale will be the big challenge in a way to build a Atmanirbhar AI, as we are calling it. Please give a big hand to Puneet Chandok.
Thank you.
Okay, let's now turn to another question that is critical to this AI revolution. Will the spread of AI result in the loss of jobs, of trust, and widen the divide between the haves and the have-nots? That's the question I posed to the chief economist of OpenAI, Dr. Ronnie Chatterjee. Listen in.
Ronnie, welcome. Just wanted to, in the first instance, ask the big question that's often asked at the moment. What we are seeing around us, is it a bubble or is it the real thing? What we are seeing around in India, is it hype or is there substance to the India story when it comes to AI?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's great to see all the folks in the audience. This is an impressive event. When you think about the number of people who have come to India to exchange ideas about AI, how India has become the center of this discussion. I go to a lot of these kinds of events, and it gives me a lot of pride as a person of Indian heritage to come back to India and do this event. I think it's for real when it comes to AI. You know, I'm an economist, so I spent a lot of my career studying prior economic recessions and bubbles and trends and new technologies. And I've looked at everything from the printing press to the semiconductor to the internet. AI is real. You're seeing users around the world adopt these tools and get real value out of them. That's different than some of the other technological trends in the past. We've reached 900 million weekly active users, and we have 100 million weekly active users here in India. That's real value. There's 1 million businesses that are our customers, and obviously others using other tools as well. That's real value. And there's billions of dollars of revenue that are being realized around AI. So I think in general, the story around AI globally is real. And in India, I think it's as real as it is anywhere. I mean, we have many users here. It's one of our fastest growing markets. If you look at the applications in India, a lot around coding and data analysis, I see real work and real productivity happening in the Indian context.
We've titled the session, Building India's AI Economy, Talent, Trade, and Trust. I'll come to the 3 T's one by one in a moment, but I just want to step back to ask you this, because the numbers suggest that the United States and China have dominated the first wave of this AI revolution. 80% of the investment spent in infrastructure has been between these two countries, and the rest of the world, including India, is seen to play catch-up. Would that be a fair way to look at where we stand today? Countries like India essentially at the moment are playing catch-up because the foundation models and the investment in innovation and infrastructure, the United States and China are in another league. The arms race has been replaced in a way between these two superpowers as an AI race. So is India playing catch-up?
Yeah, massive investments can be required in India to play in the intelligence age. But I do think we're still in the early innings of this. And I think in India, I see a recognition that you have to invest all around the stack. Like, if you think about what the government is introducing, it's 5 different layers of the AI stack, including infrastructure. So that is going to be required. But I also think India has a lot of advantages. When you think about the over 1 million STEM graduates, engineering graduates every year who come out of Indian universities and institutions, these are people who are going to be more fluent with AI than the average person. They're going to build apps on top of our API. They're going to be able to use AI to get things done. So India has a lot of advantages, and there's a lot of investment potential. So I think there's a lot of work to do, but also a lot of reason for optimism.
One of India's problems has been 58% of our population dependent on agriculture contributes only 16% of national income. Agriculture productivity is going to be key. Tell me, how is AI, in concrete terms, how is OpenAI going to actually make the Indian farmer more productive? Again, is it hype? Or can you give me a real-life case example to show, look, this is what OpenAI can do for Indian agriculture?
No, I mean, this can be real. And it's not just OpenAI. It's going to be working with a lot of parties in India. But right now, you can put intelligence into a farmer's hand. We're doing that with several initiatives in India. What are the biggest ingredients to the productivity of a piece of land? It could be the fertilizer you use or the methods you use to plant crops. These are all things that having guidance and support really matter. The #1 uses of ChatGPT are for practical guidance and learning. These are the things that can help in agriculture or in the classroom. So it's real, it's happening. It'll be us, it'll be partners in India who know the local context, but I think this is a great potential, and it's one way to increase productivity in the economy. There's lots of other parts of the Indian economy to work with too, but that's one key piece.
As we said, we want to talk about the 3 T's: talent, trade, trust. Let's talk about talent for a moment. We have a large pool of young Indians, engineers, skilled labor, but we also have a large pool of unskilled labor. And presumably one of the challenges is skilling, because the fear from an Indian perspective is, will AI spread lead to job losses? And that's the last thing a country like India needs with its large demographic dividend. How do you see it? Are those fears real, or is this fear mongering to believe that the more you spread AI, the more it's going to result in low-skilled jobs, particularly losing out?
Yeah, let me take them one by one. I mean, first, when people have anxiety about jobs, whether or not that's born in the data, it is real. You have to take that feeling head on and talk to people about what the numbers are saying. We released a report recently that shows that AI is largely in India complementing workers more than substituting them. And this, by the way, is consistent with a lot of economic data, right? With the introduction of new technologies, you often see that technology is making workers more productive, not replacing them. And it depends on the pace of adoption, of course, with AI. I think in India, I am optimistic that it's going to complement a lot of human workers, especially the ones you're talking about. On the less skilled labor or the folks who have less access to resources, there's also a lot of applications for upskilling. We released a product recently that helps people get more education and training using AI. You might need help uploading your resume or writing a cover letter to an employer or even identifying some of the employers that you might work with. If you think about applying this to people who have fewer skills and less formal education, you could help people get access to opportunities they couldn't have before. AI doesn't just provide information, it also provides some navigation, right, to be able to navigate a job market. So I feel like it has potential on both ends you're talking about, to make workers more productive, but also help people who aren't necessarily part of the labor force or need more education and training a chance to access those things.
I want to look at the second T, which is trade. Last week, the market saw what was termed as the AI trade scare. Software stocks plunging globally on worries surrounding AI advancements. Why did this happen? Do you believe markets will stabilize, or will we again see, even within markets, particularly in software companies, further friction due to AI?
So, as an economist, I never will make predictions about the stock market, but I will tell you what I think is happening is this. AI capabilities, as measured by the benchmarks we use to assess our models, they're going up and to the right. They're getting better and better and faster. As a result, people are looking at all kinds of different markets, insurance, real estate, software as a service, and saying, oh my goodness, AI can do that. I think the market will stabilize in the following sense.
The third T, which is trust.
Yeah.
And particularly for, let's say, a media network, that becomes an extremely important factor. We've already seen the mushrooming of deep fake and what that can do to the information systems. But there are wider fears, national security, fears to privacy. Are those fears legitimate? And should every country, therefore, be looking to build their own sovereign AI systems with their own legal regulatory systems as a kind of guardrail? How do I ensure that AI doesn't become this national security threat? How do I ensure that AI doesn't threaten privacy?
Every new technology is going to bring opportunities like we talked about, but also these real challenges, and they are real. As you think about, for example, child safety, that's one thing that's really important to me personally, but also to the organization. We released this new teen safety blueprint to talk about how we can improve safety for young people using the platform. It's really important in India, where we have the largest population of students using ChatGPT compared to any place in the world. So this is definitely something we have to work with governments on, and we have to have a cooperative relationship to get things done. I will say when it comes to national security, you see governments taking a stronger role to make sure that their stack is secure and they're cooperating with trusted partners. I hope OpenAI can be part of that as well.
But can I ask you, for example, OpenAI, is the goal at the moment, let's find revenue models, let's maximize revenues, or is it let's put in place these systems, even if revenues slow down, to ensure that we are at the cutting edge of technology without, let's say, interfering the people in privacy, for example?
I'll say two things on this. Safety has always been core to the mission, so that's going to be guiding what we do. We don't see an inherent conflict in many cases between safety and being successful as an organization. If we're trying to provide AI to as many people as we can, we're only going to be able to do that if people trust our products, right, and if they're safe. So in some sense, this trade-off, right, it can be real in some situations, but we don't see it as adversarially as others do. Safety has got to be number one.
The other challenge, Ronnie, is that this computing power is going to need a huge amount of energy. A huge amount of data usage. Do you believe countries like India are equipped, or again, well behind the clock when it comes to that? I want an honest answer. I know you're in India, but the truth of the matter is, again, I come back to the Chinese and the Americans. The more one reads, simply seem to be in another league. Does India have the capabilities, you believe, in the next few years to catch up?
I think India definitely needs a sea change in how they invest in infrastructure and the permitting process by building these different sort of facilities. I have a lot of experience in chips, as you know, and when it comes to building a fab, and I think about the time it takes to build a fab or the skilled workforce required, these are things that have to change if India is going to continue to invest in infrastructure. From a policy perspective, I expect the government to be focusing on that. It seems like the recent plan is in that direction.
So what would be the three things? If you were to advise, if you were Chief Economist AI for India, move away from OpenAI come to GOI.
Is anyone offering me this job? Because I might take it. Three
What
things.
were the three things that you would tell them to do?
First, skilled workforce. We need more investment in the manufacturing workforce. India's obviously been fantastic in developing software workforce. The manufacturing hardware piece, there's more work to be done. Second is developing more energy sources locally in India. That's a key issue you talked about. And the third is not just beyond the energy, but connecting to the grid and permitting around interconnection. Those are the three things, at least from my knowledge of India, that I think are really important.
Because one of the things that we did in the recent budget was to give a tax holiday to foreign companies that want to come in and invest through their cloud services in data centers that are established by Indians. Do you believe those partnerships are the way forward?
I think some of this will be partnerships. You can imagine the expertise of the hyperscalers, which are based largely in other places, cooperating with Indian firms that have local context and local knowledge. But I also think you might see indigenous firms in this area too. It's something that we'll have to watch. But I think partnerships can be great in this area.
Because today the leader of the opposition in India has called it data theft. That we need to protect our data. That this will, Rahul Gandhi says that all these companies coming into India, they're stealing your data. Data should be protected. Can a country really protect data? Isn't it transnational now with no boundaries?
These partnerships are happening all over the world. So, I think that we can find ways to partner and bring capital and expertise to India and at the same time safeguard Indian data, for sure.
Okay, one of the things being a TV channel is that the possibility exists that there will be AI anchors.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's perhaps the end of people like us.
I prefer you, though. I have to say, I prefer humans.
Thank you very much. Are you sure? Say that loudly enough so that we can survive. But we've got some AI anchors out there, and they've got some questions for you. Take a look.
Oh, excellent.
Thank you, Rajdeep. My question to Dr. Chatterjee. Will AI pose a bigger challenge to developing nations like India, where job creation for millions of youth is challenged, unlike the West, where population is significantly less?
Oh, I think AI presents different challenges in India. I wouldn't say it's easier or harder. In the United States, the conversation is very much focused on white-collar jobs and the impact of AI on those jobs. In India, you have a different industrial mix and a different workforce. In some cases, there's a lot of folks who can benefit from the expansion of intelligence to provide services that you don't have currently. Think about things like education. In the other sense, there's a lot of jobs in the software industry here that you have to watch closely. So I personally am watching these companies in the BPO industry specifically as they try to move up the value chain yet again. They've done it many times. They've been very flexible and scalable. AI presents a new challenge. I expect a lot of those companies are going to utilize AI to move further and further up the value chain. But it's a more competitive environment for one of the biggest sort of employers in the Indian context in software.
But what do you see, therefore? I know in the world of AI, it's very difficult to predict the future because every month seems to bring some disruption or the other. But if I were to ask you, even a 5-year horizon, where would we be in 2030? Where would India be? Where would the world be in embracing this AI economy? What's your projection?
Projection, I think, on the capabilities, they're continuing to advance very rapidly. The one thing I learned coming from academia and from government to OpenAI is I underestimated how quickly the capabilities were advancing. I underestimated how quickly the models were improving. I think that's going to continue if we continue to see the scaling laws that guide a lot of the innovation apply, and I'm confident in that. I think that enterprises and individuals are going to find new uses, but the adoption rates are going to vary dramatically by organizations and countries. I expect India to be one of the leaders in this space. I think the commitment to this summit here in India is one direction, but it's going to take work both on the education side, from K to 12, and also in secondary and advanced education, but also inside companies to train employees. The countries and the organizations that can reduce the capability overhang, this idea that the models are very capable, but people don't even know how to use it for that, that is really the key. India has a lot of data pointing in the direction they're going to be able to do that, given the higher than average proportion of people who are using tools for coding and data analysis. That's the thing India needs to build on. I expect it to be in a good position in 4 or 5 years.
You know, in one of your papers, you warned against outsourcing critical thinking to AI.
Yes.
Which I thought is fascinating. Now, how do you do that? How do we get our education system, which is extremely exam-driven and marks-driven, to actually create a system? Because I see young kids looking at ChatGPT for basic homework, which perhaps only means that critical thinking no longer takes place. So how do you ensure that India's next generation does not outsource critical thinking to AI?
This is my biggest worry about AI, is that I have kids myself, 8th grade, 6th grade, 3rd grade. And I want them to learn the fundamentals. I want them to learn how to add and subtract before I give them the calculator. I want them to learn how to write an essay before they use AI to do it. Once they learn those foundations, though, AI can be a tremendous force multiplier. I think about my flight across the country that I take every other week. I talk to ChatGPT the whole way about economics, and I learned things I never could have learned from any book. That kind of generative thinking, that back and forth is what I want my kids to have. But I don't want them to outsource the critical thinking and the fundamentals. So it comes back to two things: how we design our education system, right? If I'm a professor by background, of course, how do we design our assessments? If the assessments are all take-home exams, then students are going to be encouraged to use AI. We have to put more presentation skills, oral presentations, being able to quiz people on the spot rather than just relying on written assessments. The second thing we need to do is make sure that we use the tools in the right place, at the right standard or the right grade at the right time. It can't be for every exercise. And this is going to be up to local school districts, depending on where you are, or sometimes national standards, depending on the education system. I think parents also have to play a really strong role. I know my kids are probably watching and they'll say that I could do better at that. But I will say that parents and teachers need to take a lot of interest in this. Otherwise, we will have the problem you're talking about. And it's a big worry for me as an educator.
Okay, let me end by saying, as someone of Indian origin who comes back here, you look at India, you look at this energy that's, I believe that India's aspirational energies are even greater than the United States in its pomp in the last century. There's that that's the big positive. From your perspective, as someone returning home in a way, if I may say so, what's the biggest positive you see about the India story, and what's the one thing that you see that troubles you?
The youth. I mean, the India is so young. I mean, you all know this well, but as someone who comes here, 3 or 4 times a year, like, the youth is really what gets you, right? And the demographics of India and what the potential it presents is fantastic. And you're right, it's unlike any country in the world in terms of where the youth are going. And, like, even after talks like this, I talk to lots of people, but I end up talking to college students and high school students. Those are people that inspire me so much. The challenge is, can you create enough opportunities here for those millions of graduates every year? Can you build the infrastructure necessary around the whole stack, right, to build an AI ecosystem that works? These are big challenges. We're struggling with them in the United States and around the world. This is the biggest challenge for India.
So the biggest challenge in a way is scalability.
Yes.
For 1 billion citizens, I'm talking about 1.5 billion population, but 1 billion citizens who possibly today could use AI tools. OpenAI and indeed AI's challenge is, how do I scale up?
And this is something I hope OpenAI can help with. Big dreams, big challenges go together.
Okay. Ronnie Chatterjee, for joining us here, Dr. Chatterjee, and giving us what this dream could look like and what the challenges are and what the opportunities are. Please give him a very big hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For
Thank
joining
you very
me.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that's all that we could pack in on this AI special tonight. Remember, you can catch all the conversations at the India Today AI Summit on our website. For now, from the entire team, thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind. Namaskar.